Hi, it's Paul Hurst here from Paul on Twitter, from Paul's iPhone on YouTube. Here today with a tutorial video on just giving your portrait pictures in particular a little bit of something more professional looking, a slightly different edge that makes them look a little bit more like they've been done by a professional photographer with more control over scene lighting and things like that. The great thing is that it's less about the camera and more about the software, this one. So as long as you've got software that supports layers, then you can have a go at doing this for yourself. It doesn't matter about your camera. It works with iPhones right through to medium format, smartphone cameras right through to the most expensive cameras on the market. This technique would still work just the same. So let's get started then. So we're going to start off, this is the original image. It's from an engagement shoot that I did a few weeks ago in Manchester. Great couple, we had a great time. So what we're going to do, we're just going to give this a slightly more professional look to it and kind of take it from there. So the first thing we're going to actually do is I'm going to crop the image because I prefer them to be more central in the frame. So off we go. So there we go. Just crop it down there. That's makes them a little bit more important than before. They were kind of tucked away to one side before. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just balance out the tone of the picture a little bit using shadows and highlights. Now there's lots of different ways of doing this, and I'm not for a minute saying you have to follow my way, but I'm just doing this kind of to keep it looking like this. I kind of quite like it. It's a little bit too strong, that, so just a touch less, I think. Okay, so there we go. That'll do us for now. Now this next bit of the tutorial is actually something that I did on a previous tutorial, and I'm going to take you through it. It's quite easy to do. It's quite good fun, and there's more on my YouTube channel from Paul's iPhone, and if you search for making your pictures pop with the OMD EM5, then you'll find that tutorial, and I'll go into more detail about this next little bit. So I'm not going to cover this next little bit too much because it's already been covered, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a duplicate of that base layer, and I'm going to turn it to black and white. So by turning it to black and white now, I'm going to go for a slightly darker black and white. There we go, that's great, lovely. So there we go. And now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to switch off that background layer, is I'm going to just really quickly kind of delete the black and white here. Now there's different ways of doing this. You can create masks and everything like that. I'm not doing any of that today. This is only an example video. It's not meant to be perfect, just to give you an idea of what's achievable. So just by doing this is a bit 1980s this at the minute. You'll see what I mean in a minute. This was the rage with wedding photography in the 1980s. Have a part of the image in colour while everything else surrounds in black and white. Don't worry, we're not going back to that. I can sense the worry coming through the internet, the screens, the comments. Kind of, oh no, I don't like that tutorial. Which decade does this guy live in? Can't believe he's actually got Photoshop. I'm surprised he's not trying to do it in, what was that one called, that one on PC? It wasn't Photoshop. I can't remember. Photo something else, and it was like really basic graphics editing back in the day. Anyway, let's move on. So there we go. If you're into your 1980s wedding kind of vibe, then straight away, there we go. It's the girl in the red wellies there, rather than striped pyjamas or Okay, right. So it's you know, it's not perfect, but as I mentioned, just for the purposes of this, it's fine. Because believe it or not, I'm not actually having it completely black and white anyway. That's the complete colour version. That's the complete black and white version. I'm just edging some of the colour out here now, so I'm kind of taking it to about. Hang on, let me look. Yeah, about 60% there. So there we go, about 60%. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to flatten these layers again. I'm going for something slightly stronger. I don't want complete, you know, I want it to look like I've applied an effect to it. But, you know, subtlety's the key with these things more often than not, rather than blatant effects. Now what I'm going to do this time is similar, but instead of altering the colour of the background, I'm actually going to apply a vignette, which I do in this software under lens correction, and then I'm going to go custom, and again I'm going the whole hog, full vignette. Oops, there we go, full vignette. I'm going to apply that, and then again I'm going to uncheck the box so that as I make this edit I can see the layer underneath, and I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to cut out the person. And in fact, no, I'm not. I'm going to alter that because I'm going to cut out half of the people. You'll see why in a minute, don't worry. Can sense the comments coming through already. This lad doesn't know what he's doing. I do, I promise you. I'm not making this up as I go along, you know. Right, okay, so we're just deleting away here. If I'm rubbing out. Okay. Right, now that should catch up in a minute, because I have actually done it there, kind of there. Right, okay. Software's a bit slow. Paint Shop. That's what it was called. Paint Shop Pro. Do you remember Paint Shop Pro? Right, anyway, moving on. You'll notice I've left a little bit of the legs because I'm going to alter the opacity of this brush. Got to just take it down to 50% just for a little bit. Oh, no, I've done that wrong. Oh, it's all going wrong here. You can't click more than once, else it applies 50% plus 50%, if you know what I mean. So you've got to be a little bit more careful. Less haste, more speed. There we go. And then I'm going to take it down to 30%, let's call it 30%. So even less for the legs. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because it'll give the people a slightly more kind of 3D look, less cut out look on the finished picture. If everything was just completely cut out at 100%, the effect might look a little bit too strong. But by graduating the effect as we go further down the picture, it kind of mirrors the effect itself, which we're going to have here, because this gets darker as we go down the picture as well. So, right, so now when we add that back, we've got our two layers. Now then, the effect is too strong at the moment, so I'm going to alter the opacity of the vignette layer. And I'm going to go for something a bit more like that. Okay, so just something a little bit more like that, which I quite like. And then you'll notice that this layer now, it is starting to look a bit too strong on here. So I'm going to come back into here and I'm going to alter the brightness and the contrast, and you see that by altering the brightness and the contrast we can rebalance things a little bit. So just to take the edge off there, like that, just like that, that will do. That's pretty good. Okay, so then what I'm going to do, I'm going to flatten the image again. Just going to do 1 or 2 more changes and then we're done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into vibrance and saturation. I'm going to increase the vibrance but decrease the saturation again, because I don't want too much in the way of colour to come through. Alright, so there we go. So there we have it. We have a finished portrait picture which hopefully slightly more subtly than obviously kind of isolates the couple here away from the background. The background's slightly darker, less contrast, less colour. In this case I've gone for more colour. Quite a lot more colour for the couple and more vibrance and the like. And the idea behind it is that you just make your pictures look a little bit more kind of professional. I'm going to actually apply 1 more vignette to this, believe it or not, so that even the vignette is staged. There's different levels to the vignette. So instead of going right to the middle this time, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to kind of come out a little bit more, just like that. So the vignette now is stronger at the outsides than at the insides. And that's pretty much it. Can alter the hue and saturation if we like. Kind of go for something slightly different hue. And then again can control the saturation quite nicely. So the idea is that you can create an image that you're happy with, that your clients will be happy with, that looks slightly more professional than something that's kind of just taken on a point and shoot camera. And like I said, the great thing is it works with any camera because it's less about the camera and more about the software. That's the original image there. And this is the edited image there. And I know that some people will say, actually, I prefer the first one. In which case, I'm really sorry for wasting nearly 15 minutes of your time. But I prefer the second one. I prefer the look. It looks more professional. And I just prefer that. I think it looks nicer. So it's a great little picture. I'm just going to do one more thing. I love tinkering. I think that's half the thing about photography. You know, to tinker, to just kind of tinker away there. I'm just going to raise the overall brightness a touch because it's a little bit dark. I've gone overboard a little bit too much with the vignette on the background, but I'm doing that to show the effect at its maximum. You obviously won't do that. You'll probably be slightly more sensitive with the effect than what I've been. So there we go. Anyway, if you've got any questions, do feel free to ask away. From Paul on Twitter, from Paul's iPhone here on YouTube. I'll do my best to answer them. I've got 1 or 2 other tutorial videos on my channel, so feel free to have a nosy. Based around similar concepts of multi-layer editing and then squishing them all together to get a finished picture. And thanks very much for your time, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Goodbye.